Shabbat Shalom. I want to share this video two insights into Lechem Oni. One long and serious, based on a shir of the Rabbi Soloveitchik, which was based on the Netziv's Haggadah of Naftali Tzvi Yudah Berlin, the Rosh Yeshiva of Volozhin, and his Haggadah Imre Shefer, and a short word, which is more Mila de B'dichuta, sort of an amusing thing. It's probably inaccurate philologically, but it's something that I by chance heard last week, and it came across my mind last week in connection with a lecture I heard, and I thought I'd share it with you. So the first item has to do with Lechem Oni, and as I said, it's from a recorded shir of Rav Soloveitchik from I think 1981, based on the Haggadah of the Netziv. It's very interesting that the Rav there reveals that he at first wasn't attracted. Didn't really want to get involved with the Netziv's Haggadah. The Rav being, of course, from that same large Lithuanian tradition. And the Rav even says there that the reason he was sort of put off by the Imre Shefer, and I'll put while I'm talking, we should have an image here of the title page of a reprinting of Imre Shefer. Anyway, the reason was the Rav was put off was that he thought there was something in the Imre Shefer that sounded like the Maskilim, so the Haskalah, which is not something you'd expect from the Rav, but probably shouldn't be too surprised either. But then he found the sources for the Netziv in the Rishonim and Achronim, and got more into it. It begins with a kasha, with a question we have on the four questions that form one of the first and maybe the most famous section of the Haggadah. I'm sure the question has been asked many times. How is it that the person asking the question, presumably a little boy, a little girl, already knows that we're not going to eat chametz, that we're going to dip 2 times, and so on and so forth? I mean, this is something that, that if they're really children who have never experienced or don't remember the Seder, how can they know this already at the beginning? I'm sure that's been asked and given answers to, but the Netziv fits it into a very interesting theory, which he has, and I've found parts of it, as the Rav explains it, in the Imre Shefer, and I haven't found all of it. Maybe the Rav knew from other sources how the Netziv built his theory. But the Netziv has a theory that the Seder Pesach underwent a very major thematic shift with the Churban Abayis. When the Beit HaMikdash was standing, the centerpiece, the center of attention of the Leil Seder was the Korban Pesach, and this meant that the whole order of things as we know that was reversed. In other words, we first made Kiddush, made a motzi, ate matzah, had the meal, which consisted of the korbanot and at the very end, and of course the piece of the korban of the Korban Pesach, and then afterwards said the Haggadah. So in that case, it would make perfect sense for the child after the meal to say, why did we dip 2 times, or why didn't we eat any chametz? I'm sure many of us would like to go back to that order of things as it stands, as it stood then, because many of us get impatient during a Seder until we finally get around to the meal. But according to the Netziv, this was the way things were done at the Beis HaMikdash. And actually, I think that if you look in the Haggadat Chazal of the Safrai, father and son, they also claim that I think that this is what they say. Their theory is that during the time of the Beit HaMikdash, there was no fixed Seder. There was no Seder text, Haggadah Shel Pesach, but people brought the Korban Pesach, had a festive meal, and then spent the rest of the night, as much as they could, talking about the Yetziat Mitzrayim and saying Hallel. But after the Churban Abayit, and there was no more Korban Pesach, so the center of attention of the Seder shifted to matzah. And that meant that we had to have the matzah on the table revealed, and not even most of the seder we take the cloth off the matzah so you can see that, and we say the Haggadah over the matzah, with the matzah being visible. We say the seder the Haggadah. This is what Lehem Oni means. Lechem she'onim olav harbe devarim harbe. That we say many things. We recount in great detail the Sefer Yetziat Mitzrayim with the matzah before us. This also is clear in the Rambam's Haggadah, where the Rambam begins his Haggadah by saying that in the time of the Galus, the Haggadah begins by saying V'vehilu Yetzadim Mitzrayim, and then the four questions. So this major shift in the center of attention of the Seder is something singled out by the Netziv, and in fact he points out, it's very interesting, it's really daring, that the lechem, the matzah is called lechem only once in the Torah, and the Netziv, I can't go into this in detail, but if you look in this Haggadah, hints there very openly that this pasuk is actually sort of hinting at the time that there will be a time when there will be no Korban Pesach, we won't have a Korban Pesach, and matzah will be the center of attention of the Seder, and the matzah will be the sort of the locus, the focus of our Haggadah, and we'll say the Haggadah. We'll say many things with the matzah fully visible before our eyes. Now, the Rav also tells us that this shift in the way the Seder was arranged actually it brought us into a halachic problem which remains unresolved. That the halacha is Ein Kiddush El B'Mkom Seuda, and though many people think that this means that you have to eat a certain piece of cake, and in Israel it's been quantified, there's so many grams or whatever, and then your Kiddush is valid. But this is not what Chazal had in mind. Chazal had in mind that you make Kiddush and then eat your meal, just what I think normal people do. And of course, the way the Netziv explained it, this is exactly how it was done during the time the Beis HaMikdash was standing. They made Kiddush, ate the meal, of course, with matzah, and then after eating the Afikoman, which was Korban Pesach, they said the Haggadah. But now we have a problem because we make Kiddush, and then it's several hours before we get around to eating the meal, and there's nothing we can do. We're sort of, just stuck with this impossible situation in which we simply can't fulfill the halakha precisely as it is. Ein kiddush b'mkom el b'mkom suda. The Rav tells an interesting story which I found amusing. And the Rav says that at one point he invited some guests to his seder because he thought they were Amaratzim. They don't know anything about Judaism, so they would come to a seder and maybe get some taste of it. And so the Rav, they sat down to the seder, and the Rav made Kiddush. And then he took out the Haggadah and started saying the Haggadah, and this Jew said, "Wait a minute, there's halacha, Ein Kiddush El B'Mkom Suda. Why are you saying the Haggadah now? We should be eating." So this was, I thought, an amusing story. But anyway, just one more point from the Netziv in the Imre Shefer. The Netziv says, why do we say the matzah she'onim love durim harbe? What's the diuk, if you want to call it, of durim harbe? We say many things. The point is, he says that we have the mitzvah is to remember Yetziat Mitzrayim all the time, every day, and we do every day in Kriyat Shema and in other places mention Yetziat Mitzrayim, but we can't tell the whole story every day. And it's not just because we don't have time or the patience, but also because it would become stale. If every single day we sat down and discussed in detail and recited the Haggadah, the whole story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, it would just become rote. And so what we do is for the whole year through, we mention Yetziat Mitzrayim and just in a few words, just to remember. That's how we became a nation. That's where God showed that He remembered the zechuyot of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But one night a year, we go into great detail. We recite the Haggadah and we discuss it as thoroughly and as intensely and as at high a level as possible. So this is I think, a serious thing, which I was very glad to hear from the Rav, which I'm hoping you find some interest in. And now we'll have a very short, more amusing, piquantish type of word. So now, for just one brief, amusing, coincidental thing, I heard a very interesting lecture this week on ancient Egyptian timekeeping, and in the course of the lecture, the certain word that may mean hour, may not mean hour in ancient Egyptian, and the lecturer said that there's a difference of opinion among the scholars as to just what the root of the word is and what it really means, and the word, and some said the word that he's arguing stands for hours comes from the Egyptian word, the root oni, which means hurry. And I'm putting here on the screen, I hope, while I'm talking, a few images of the hieroglyph, not exactly the hieroglyph, but I think this is close enough. You can see the rabbit, which gives the impression of hurry. So this led me to think that this may be, very humorously suggesting that Lechem Oni could be that reminding us that while we were slaves, the slave masters, the task drivers, or the slave drivers were shouting all the time, Oni, Oni, meaning hurry up, as we heard in Tzvi that they actually were, pressing our forefathers to do the work as quickly as possible. I don't think this work is my drush here is philologically that sound, and I know that some people take their philology more seriously than others, but I think as a mila de ptichuta on something that even by chance works out, you may find some interest in it. Anyway, this is a few points to ponder as we move closer to the Pesach and the Seder. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. One last word. According to the Rav, Rabbi Akiva decided that the Shvach is not Yetziat Mitzrayim, but the Shvach is a future redemption, not just a redemption in the building of the temple, but the redemption of the entire cosmos. And points out that according to the Rambam's Agada, in the fourth cup, we don't mention it Mitzrayim at all. So it really makes a lot of sense. So I thought I'd tack this onto this video. Once again, have a happy and kosher Pesach.